Okay, we're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order, 6:07 PM, and that is June 27, 2024. All right, thank you everyone for coming out for our special meeting. We're going to be having a little bit of a different agenda, as you may or may not be aware. It was posted roughly 2 days ago. Let's see. First and foremost, we'll have a roll call and quorum out of the way, and then we can officially make this meeting. Councilor Vargas.
Present.
And Councilor Rolikoff. And he's already just wasn't late. And I am here.
He's right there.
Yeah, right. All right, but that being said, we do have a quorum, so we can go ahead and continue. And I want to also thank our esteemed guests and everyone for coming out here. All right, so just like we do for a normal meeting, we're going to go ahead and open it up to public comment. A couple standing items on public comment. We're going to take a total of 20 minutes, giving each person 2 minutes each, and I'm going to ask that we be very restrictive on that 2 minutes, primarily because we are short on time. I've been informed that Commander Linus has other pressing matters to attend to, so we're going to be respectful of her time. So, that being said, do we have any public comment? Yes, Mr. Jimenez. And also, I'd like to also point out, please refrain from any personal attacks. We're going to maintain decorum here, okay? Any disrespectful items, we're going to shut down quick. So please, Emma,
I'm doing that, sir.
But please, go ahead and start, sir.
Okay. Good evening, Commander. Thank you for coming out. My name is Gil Jimenez. I'm a 50-year resident of Logan Square, which has gone through many changes over the years. As you may know, the vast majority of the good people of the 14th Police District are concerned about crime, particularly violent crime and the vicious criminals who prey on the innocents. We do represent the majority of voters in this area. Business owners, voters, property owners, residents, and businesses. And we're not at all interested in defunding or eliminating police. Quite the contrary. Regardless of what any organization claims. Somewhere in Chicago, a couple of days ago, a 7-year-old boy was shot and killed. A couple of days before that, an 11-year-old boy, and it goes on and on. We seem to average 50 or more shootings in Chicago a weekend. It's been as high as 76 in recent years. And summer's just getting started. That must be stopped. The murderers keep getting younger and younger, some as young as 13 now. Perhaps there is some way through programs and whatnot to intervene in the lives of those youngsters, the ones who are under 16 years old. But that'll take years. And we simply cannot wait years for the bloodshed to end. The older killers must be stopped immediately.
Mr. Jimenez, the time is up. Thank you for your comment. 1 second, we'll get to the next speaker. All right, over here, Mr. Brazil.
Hi, Neil Brazil, 14th District. 2 questions. One is, do you have any suggestions about how the people in the 14th District can...
One moment,
Oh.
We're not in the Q&A portion. This is public comment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so. Did you want to take 2 minutes to have a public comment, or would you like to go on to the next person?
I'll wait for the question and answer.
All right.
I'm Fayani Aboma Mijana, member of the Chicago Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression, the organization that established these district councilors in their roles. And I want to get for the record that we're here today not because the commander came here on her own volition. We're here because we forced it to happen. There have been organized neighbors in this district for the last 3 or 4 months that have been calling her, emailing her, asking the counselor in the middle, Counselor Laurent, to come. And all they've done is push us back. But thankfully, through our pressure and the help of Counselor Vargas, we were able to get the commander here today. So we needed to be known that she's here because we demanded she be here. And secondarily, we're here first and foremost because there's a white supremacist in the district on the police force, Sergeant Mike Nowacki. And there are people here who think that crime this, crime that, but as far as I'm concerned, a police department is not equipped to keep us safe so long as they have white supremacists serving on the force with a badge and a gun. They are not equipped. And so we're here to demand justice. We're here to demand he be fired. We're here to demand that those pretextual stops be ended because they are racist. And anyone who thinks that a police force is capable of acting in the name of safety and keeping us safe while committing these racist things every day is quite frankly racist. That's all it is. So I yield my time.
Yes.
All right. Any other public comment? Mr. Tishman.
My name is Jeff Tischhauser. I'm a resident of the 14th District. I also work as a researcher for a civil rights nonprofit, and I focus on exposing far-right extremists. Officer Nowicki has no business being a sergeant in the 14th District. We all here deserve better than this. And Nowacki is far from it. Why is he still on our streets? This man signed up for the Oath Keepers when the group was among the most active and combative extremist groups in the United States. The Oath Keepers existed because LEOs thought a black man could not uphold the oath of the Constitution as U.S. president. The Oath Keeper website at the time he signed up, at the time Nowacki signed up, was full of extremist material, and I could prove it because we have receipts. The BIA investigation into Nowacki's association with the Oath Keepers is fundamentally flawed. I was an author to the letter that SPLC sent to the mayor and your boss, Superintendent Snelling. 5 alders and a community group signed on. In that letter, we list several concerns about the BIA's investigation, including several of the accused claim that they signed up to the Oath Keepers after looking at the website. It does not appear that BIA ever looked at archived versions of that website. That's ridiculous. Other officers claim to have joined the group after learning about it from a fellow officer. BIA never contacted that officer who told them about the Oath Keepers. BIA never contacted outside experts. Nobody at the ADL who found the list, who found Nowacki, nobody at any other community group. BIA's reports also appear to ignore how the Oath Keepers associated with the groups, which Nowacki admits to, right? And that includes in going out to gun shows, going out to shooting competitions, and SPLC, the alders that signed our letter, never heard back from the mayor, which is ridiculous. We never heard back from Superintendent Snelling, which is ridiculous. And the 14th District, the city, deserves better than this. Thank you for listening.
Hello, my name is Allison Schmidt. We actually had some correspondence a couple weeks ago. I'm really glad to see you here tonight. You might not be aware that many of us in this room have actually been asking our district counselors, specifically Councilor Laurent, to organize a meeting with you for over a year. And it was when that failed to materialize that I reached out to you personally. You sort of engaged a little bit in email correspondence with me and then kind of reverted to you have to go through Councilor Laurent. So I'm really glad tonight's meeting is happening. And I'm concerned about many things. And I have several questions, but I will hold those. But I'm just going to start with some stats here. So based on Impact for Equity's report on Chicago 2023 traffic stops, which were released a couple months ago, the data shows that pretextual traffic stops are disproportionately affecting Black and brown drivers in Chicago. Black drivers are 6 times more likely to be pulled over in our city, with Latino drivers being twice as likely to be pulled over for a minor traffic violation. I strongly believe that pretextual stops lead to targeted harm and eroded trust between law enforcement and police communities. And CPD's continued focus on minor traffic violations diverts resources away from addressing more pressing safety issues, such as responding to 911 calls, which probably most of us are aware of. If they're even answered, you might be waiting 3 hours. And ultimately, this is a waste of government resources and taxpayer dollars. And most tragically, it has resulted in the loss of life, as our city recently witnessed with the killing of Dexter Reed, who was shot 96 times by a tactical team, including after he'd already surrendered. So with that, I'm also going to say I'm completely disheartened to hear that we have an officer, a sergeant no less, in the 14th District, who is a member of the Oath Keepers. For those of you who do not know the Oath Keepers, they led the January 6th insurrection on the Capitol. They led to 140 officers being injured and 5 officers being killed. A sergeant is a source of authority, probably should be leading by example, and membership in the Oath Keepers is highly problematic.
Any other public comment?
Yeah, mine's gonna be really short. Hi, I'm Sally Heyman. I've lived in Logan Square for over 40 years. I've been going to CAPS meetings since the mid-1990s, and I have hardly missed a beat. I was in 1431, I'm now in 1414. I supported the department in many other ways, National Night Outs, a few other things, but I am also really concerned about Officer Nowacki. And I just wanted to let people know that I have filed a complaint on January 20th, June 20th, asking them to reopen this case and relook at it. It's, in case you want it, it's complaint number 2024-0005697. And since I did that, I've gotten a whole bunch more information about him. So I'm going to see if I can add that to that complaint. Thank you.
Do we have any other public comments?
Hi, my name is Adam Burke. I'm a resident of the First Ward, and I also represent the 14th District Public Safety Committee, which is a group of volunteers who are interested in reducing crime in our area and finding ways to help the police be more effective at doing that. I wanted to set the record straight on a couple allegations that were made here about the commander, which I can speak to. The first one is that, yes, it's true that some people, including me, were asking as early as July last year to hear what the police are doing about reducing crime in our area. But it's very important for everybody to know that for 6 months, the majority of the counselors on this committee prevented any uniformed officers from attending this meeting, and you can check the minutes and recording of those meetings to hear that both those counselors say that. Starting in January, after pressure from me and other people for 6 months, the council did decide that they wanted to have the commander, but they couldn't agree on how to do that and when to do that. So it was only about 3 months later, since 3 months ago, that there was a consensus. And I know from meeting personally with the commander that she's always been interested in meeting with us on good terms. So I'm here to hear what the commander has to say, both about police accountability, and she has a background managing constitutional policing and trying to change the police department. So I think we have an ally on that. And also to hear the things that the police are doing to address crime, which has not gone down since last year, which was at a historically high level. I think we're all interested, or most of us are interested, in reducing violent crime in the area. And so I'm here to listen to that. So thank you very much.
Good comments. We have time for one more, and then we do have to get started.
Chris, can I get a 10-second extension?
I'm sorry,
No, it's 2 minutes.
Neil Rosedale, 14th District. I am concerned that when it comes to fighting hate crimes in the 14th District, the police have an ideological bias. They tend to lean on left-wing extremist groups and not lean so heavily on right-wing extremist groups. I would like to see more of a balance there.
thank you for your comments. All right, with that, we're going to close out public comments. As I mentioned previously, the commander has other engagements to attend to, but we want to make the value of every minute that we have. So that being said, first and foremost, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention our Deputy Director for District Council is here with us tonight, Mr. Damon Smith, Reverend Damon Smith, I should say. If you got your hands on one of these brochures, they're free to take home. You can read a little bit about him. But our focus tonight is Commander Winnis, who sits to my left. I'm very excited to have her not just as our commander here, but as our partner moving forward. Previously, she worked with community safety team, and she also was on the constitutional policing and reform. So this is she also got a law degree. So like I said, I got a little write up about her in that brochure as well. Without further ado, I introduce Commander Linda Lennis.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for that. So yes, a little bit about my career. I've been on the department for almost 25 years now. Most of my time was spent, I've spent time on the west side and north side of the city patrolling the streets. Never in the 14th district as a police officer, but I used to live in the 13th district, so I'm familiar with the area in that regard. Over the last few years that was mentioned, I was a commander in the community safety team, which was a citywide unit that was built in response to the pandemic and civil unrest. I spent a couple years there, and then the last year prior to coming here, I spent in our Office of Constitutional Policing and Reform. And within that office, my main focus, I had several focuses, but my main focus was on our force review unit and our Fourth Amendment stop unit that we were building. Because as most of you know, Fourth Amendment stops, as you brought up the traffic stops, pretextual stops, that whole issue is very important, obviously, for everybody involved with public safety. And so it's a big part of the consent decree, so I spent a lot of time in negotiations and conversations, creating policies, establishing policies and best practices that we all can agree on, that's safe for everybody. So like I said, the year prior to me coming here, that's where I spent most of my time. And then I came here in September of last year, so it's almost a year. So I've been here about a year, still learning some of the ropes about the communities here in the 14th district. We just had Puerto Rican Fest a couple weeks ago, which this was the first time I had to be a deputy incident commander for that, which was a big undertaking, but it was such a wonderful event that so many people came out to enjoy. But other than that, I'm happy to be here. I'm not gonna talk about why I wasn't here sooner or why I wasn't, I don't think that's important. But it should be noted, I will say that, most of the time the meetings are on Saturday afternoons, and my Saturdays usually are filled with other work engagements, or conferences. That's when I take time to do career development, because I am not at work. So that being said, I am happy to be here, and my whole intention is to have a productive relationship with any community member or community member groups that want to make the district better, to make it safer, to make everybody feel safe where they live. So yes, I'm looking forward to creating, after speaking with Ashley a few weeks ago, I think it was, we need to work together, we need to collaborate, and we need to all, be willing to listen and hear one another. And I truly believe that's the only way that we're gonna move forward as a city. And I'm a resident of the city, I have children, that live in the city. So I have a vested interest, and we all need to work together. So I'm looking forward to doing that and reestablishing our communication as with the council and myself and the district, so.
Sure. Okay, so first we're going to get into some questions that were pre-submitted prior to this meeting. We put out a notice that there was a deadline to submit questions to all three of us, and we got a couple of them. I'm going to basically recap these rather than read them verbatim, just for brevity. Jonathan Jafrida submitted a question regarding reckless and dangerous driving in the 14th district, specifically right in front of the 14th police district headquarters. Essentially, I think I'm capturing the spirit of his question. And if I'm wrong, please correct me, my colleagues here. Basically, what they're asking is what you're gonna do to enforce the basic traffic safety laws to the degree you did before the pandemic, by ticketing and arresting or impounding mostly reckless, dangerous drivers.
So, one thing that we do, because traffic stops are a contentious issue, when I do meet with community groups, a lot of them will point out troubled areas in their, community that they would like a little bit more focus and enforcement, whether it be people driving through stop signs near a school, and then we will set up and we will do more enforcement there. You know, we are strapped for resources and we have calls to answer, so we cannot focus on every single problem area. However, being that this problem area is pointed out, and I'm assuming, if you're sitting right in front of the station, I'm assuming it's the two crosswalks. One thing that is district-wide, an issue district-wide, is most crosswalks have those yellow or greenish signs indicating that there's a crosswalk, but I think we're immune to them because they've been there now for a while. So I want to reach out to whether it be the Alder People's Office or some other city service, that is there something we could do if we determine that that's a problem area, maybe we could create another, either the lights around those signs, something to catch people's attention, because as we all know, when we drive to work the same route every single day, you're almost in a trance and you're not even thinking or seeing what's there. So I'm thinking that might be one way that we can do that. But as far as enforcing the traffic laws, we'll do what we can. The thing is, I don't think that issuing tickets is necessarily the only way to gain compliance as far as traffic violations. I'd rather not, put a ticket on somebody that now they have to go to court, they have to pay a fine. This might impede their ability to go to work. And, so the officers use their discretion when they do issue ticket citations and not. So, again, we'll do what we can, where we can, and knowing that we have a specific area, if anybody else has specific areas, please let us know. You can reach out to our CAPS office and we will determine how we can best, focus on that area.
Thank you, Commander. Okay, Mr. Adam Burke had submitted 4 questions, but we're gonna cut it down to 2, and that's primarily a consensus because these are more related to the community than an individual incident. So, Mr. Burke asks, can you provide an update on the clarification of arrest data reported monthly by the Cook County State's Attorney's Office, saying that that fewer than 3% of the robberies in the 14th District in the past 3 months have an associated arrest. So I think what he's getting at here, and please correct me if I'm wrong, only 3% arrest rate for some of these more serious crimes.
Yes, so this is tricky because this is Cook County State's Attorney's Office information and the way they're pulling numbers. Now, the question specifically asks, their arrests for armed robberies in the 14th District. Their data, I'm not sure if it's including arrests made by the detective division or arrests made for somebody that may have committed a spree. So let's say 4 robberies in a row, maybe 2 in the 14th District, 2 in the 25th District, and the only charges that they can approve are for the 2 in the 25th District. And maybe if I could take a moment to explain how charging actually works. If we arrest somebody, if somebody commits a crime and we arrest them, we take them into the station. We can't just say, okay, you're getting charged with armed robbery, we're gonna put you in jail. There's a kind of a long process. We have to call the state's attorney's office for approval. Now, armed robberies, the detective division handles those. So we hand over the arrestee to the detective division, and they then work up a case and then ask the state's attorney for charges. Now, that's kind of a simplified version. So when it comes to arrest data and armed robberies, me as the 14th District Commander, it's really not within my purview to analyze it, talk about it, and say exactly what's going on with it, because we don't really handle that. The detective division does, the special units that have been put together to handle the robberies that are happening across the city, they handle that. And in dealing with the state's attorney's office, again, this doesn't include any juvenile information as well. And now a lot of the robberies are being committed by young people, juveniles. And that, for juveniles, you don't go through the Cook County State's Attorney's Felony Review Office, which I think this is where this information is coming from. So I think I know they tried to provide, or not that they tried, but they did provide context in here, but I think without really descript context, I don't think I can answer really any of your questions about that data. I don't want to mislead anybody. I just want to say that, you know, I know in the 14th district, in the last 28 days, we had 14th district personnel have not had a robbery arrest. However, I can't say that the detectives didn't pick somebody up that committed a robbery, you know, 2 months ago and they're seeking charges. So I'm sorry, I don't have a very good succinct answer as far as why the data says that, but that kind of gives you an idea of what we're dealing with.
I'm trying to be mindful of the
Well,
time
just
before you here as well.
just nudge me if
And
I'm
I'll make
talking too
certain
much,
that
I'm
you get,
sorry.
I'll make certain you're all out of here with the sheet, so we know exactly where everyone's asking. All right, second question for Mr. Burke. Looking for an update on CPD and specifically the 14th district, efforts to address the high rate of robberies in our area.
Yeah, briefly, I'll say for beyond the regular, like what we've been doing is pooling our resources in the area and data-driven saturation of certain areas where we think they're gonna hit. The department itself has created 2 different robbery teams, I'll call them. And they're focusing citywide, so whoever kind of needs them can use them, and they're making great strides. They're newer units, I don't have specific numbers, one of them is out of the detective division and one's out of patrol from what I understand. But, so that's something that the department as a whole has put together to help the district personnel make some headway with these armed robberies. Locally in the district, like I said, we share resources with the surrounding districts, and we try to, you know, focus our efforts where the data shows that we're most needed.
All right, and we have 3 more questions, and those were all submitted by Council Holocaust. And let him ask those, if you want to summarize.
Yeah, definitely. First about chase policy. We've heard officers in the 14th district say that changes to the pursuit policies now prevent them from intervening in or attempting to apprehend individuals witnessed engaging in some kind of violent activity, including those continuing to pose an act of public danger. So this has definitely been concerning for people to see and hear. The current pursuit policies developed by CPD are meant to prioritize the responsibility to uphold public safety, my understanding, but there should be no ban to addressing active threats for CPD officers. So the question, how do you understand CPD's foot and vehicle pursuit policies, and how do you ensure that understanding extends to the work of the officers under your command?
Right, so our vehicle policy, this is one of the things that I think there's most misinformation given. People say, well, you have a no chase policy, you can't chase anybody. That's not accurate. It's a vehicle pursuit policy. And it's very, very, it's very limited and far more constraining than the state law. So I have the order here because I wanted to read certain things directly out of it. Now, in order to pursue a vehicle, the initiation or continuation of a motor vehicle pursuit must conform to a balancing test. So the officers have to perform this balancing test to determine if they can pursue a fleeing vehicle. And that test, the officer will make a determination whether the speeds involved and the maneuvering practices engaged do not create an unwarranted danger to drivers or others. So speed and the driving, if they're driving erratic or their maneuvering practices. The volume of pedestrian and vehicle traffic, reasonably permits initiating or continuing the pursuit, and weather and road conditions have to be considered. Also, the officer must consider not initiating a motor vehicle pursuit whenever the suspect's identity has clearly been established to the point that later apprehension can be accomplished without the risk of pursuit. Now, that also means that if we have pod cameras and the city has cameras everywhere, if we can identify the vehicle and if we can identify that vehicle and we could go back later and get that vehicle or the owner of that vehicle, that right there is that we've identified the suspect. the suspect vehicle. And from there, we can work a case to see who was actually driving it. They also must consider terminating a pursuit whenever a pursued vehicle or pursuing department vehicle is involved in any property damage traffic crash. That's anything. So if a mirror hits another mirror, that's a property damage crash, so they have to terminate that chase. They also must consider every other relevant information. So that's the balancing test that has to be done. Now, the other thing is members will not engage in a motor vehicle pursuit when the most serious offense wanted is a traffic offense or a theft, which includes possession of stolen motor vehicle. So a lot of traffic pursuits are a result of stolen vehicles or armed robberies. And I think that's what maybe you're getting at, is the armed robbery is the act of violence, and then they flee in a vehicle, and the perception is that we can't chase that vehicle for that reason. Now, again, we have to, if property was taken off of a person and they get in a car and flee and we can identify that vehicle, the balancing test leans towards you shouldn't pursue that vehicle for the safety of everybody. And the other thing in this district, as you know, many of our main thoroughfares like Milwaukee Avenue or California, it's very congested. It's very congested. It's very dangerous. There's a lot of people on bicycles, on skateboards, on other those crazy things with the two wheels and they're standing up like
Unicycles.
Yeah, pretty much,
The
scooters, or even the ones without any handles. I don't know how they do it, but it's very dangerous to drive at a high rate of speed and maneuver. So safety is the main concern. Safety of the community and the officers and those people driving that fleeing vehicle is the main concern. So again, another thing to note is that all of our policies are available online to everybody. So if you want to pick apart our 11-page vehicle pursuit policy, it's very helpful because it does clear up some misconceptions. Did I answer that enough?
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you. This question stands out, and it's about officer behavior and district culture. So how do you go about correcting behavior when there are complaints and issues with officers and your command?
So the complaint, our complaint policy, there's a protocol that we follow. So if somebody comes into the station or on the street makes a complaint against the behavior or actions of one of my officers, there's a protocol that we follow. We initiate a complaint register, a complaint register. Now that summary then gets forwarded to COPA, and then from there they handle the investigation, whether it goes to our Bureau of Internal Affairs or if they do the investigation themselves. So that's the investigatory portion of it. At that point, I'm not involved at that point, right? I'm notified that this complaint has been made, but I don't know all the facts at that point. But when I am notified, what I do when I am notified that a complaint is made, I further investigate myself just to see, well, what was the situation, what's going on here. And depending on the actions or the allegation, I can't investigate it myself. There's other entities that do that. Now, as far as you mentioned, like the culture and of the state of the district personnel, I mean, that's something that, we have roll calls every day before we watch. And that's something that if I'm not there, I expect and encourage the lieutenants that run those roll calls. Every day there's something to talk about at roll call. And the underlying thing is that professionalism is important. If we adhere to professionalism and treat everybody with dignity and respect, we shouldn't be getting a lot of complaints, right? Not everybody's going to be happy with our service, and not everybody's going to be happy with the outcome of a meeting with us, and I understand that. But, bottom line is professionalism. And I preach that. I try to emulate that all the time because I am a reflection of what I want our community to see. And I want my officers to be a reflection of that. So, my style of leadership and my style of communication with my officers, I hope that in my conversations with them, I'm always encouraging, the utmost professionalism, even if it's you're having your worst day, utmost professionalism at all times.
Final one?
Can we we move. We are short of time.
So about the traffic stop, Sergeant Snelling has said, that he doesn't want them to be used, as a pretext to search for something else, that they should target, if they're doing a traffic stop, it should be for something like reckless driving or where it's a serious issue. So I'm curious if he has, said or done anything to change the internal practice of using traffic stops as a way to conduct unrelated searches.
So I'll preface this by saying that the topic of traffic stops is pending litigation, so I can't comment on pending litigation. However, what I can say is that superintendent has repeatedly said publicly that traffic stops and investigative stops should be conducted in a constitutional manner. Fair enough. The superintendent has also made clear that our efforts to reduce violent crimes do not center around traffic stops. CPD has seen a significant reduction in traffic stops over the past year, this year versus last year. Our officers, it's important to note that our officers continually receive Fourth Amendment training to emphasize constitutional policing in all of our law enforcement actions. So unfortunately, I cannot speak anything more specific about traffic stops because of the pending litigation.
Okay, moving into our final portion of our meeting. I'm going to do open Q&A. So, as mentioned previously, the public comment, please be respectful. And please keep your questions down to one question at a time. When you get through the entire room, we'll get you another question. Trying to be mindful of the commander's time. We got about 15, 20 minutes left for a burger. So let's go ahead and get that started. Do we have any questions for open Q&A? Mr. Rizzo.
Yeah, you got a law degree, right?
Yes.
How is that impacting you in your everyday activities? Do you find that to have been a benefit to you?
I think yes, definitely. I think it's a benefit. Yes, because for one, I'm not afraid to research and read and learn from various literature, whether it be statutes, whether it be our general order. Like I said, this is one general order on a vehicle pursuit. So this doesn't scare me. I have no problem picking that apart. I also think that just being a lawyer, it's afforded me a diversity of perspective and a way to think about things and look at things from various positions. So yeah, I think it helps me in my day-to-day, just in my position. Whether I'm dealing with complex policies, whether I'm dealing with complex issues within our discipline system or whatever. Yeah, I do like it. Like that I have that experience and that education.
Yeah, I want to follow up on the pretextual stops just a minute. I had some more questions regarding the 14th district and how you're implementing those now. How many officers are doing those traffic stops? Is there a quota? I keep hearing that there is a quota that the officers have to meet on pretextual stops. Are the tactical teams involved in these pretextual stops? And I'm sure you don't have it now, but going forward, we would really like to see workforce allocations and how officers are allocated in the 14th district.
As far as workforce allocations, I cannot discuss that publicly. It's just a department policy and safety issue. But back to the pretextual stops, again, because that whole topic is part of pending litigation, I'm not allowed to comment on that.
Nothing at all.
No, without my general counsel here, I can't. I mean, I will say that it's hard to say what you said that those that are performing pretextual stops. I don't know. I don't even know how to answer that because just because you stop someone for what would be considered a petty offense doesn't make it a pretextual stop.
How are they reported when they do have it? Again, you can't comment.
Ms. Schmidt?
Can you comment on where the tactical teams are operating in our district?
Where the tactical, so I could generally comment on all of our deployment of resources is based on data-driven analysis. You know, we have a lot of data-driven, we have a lot of data that we pull that we then use to allocate our resources or to deploy our resources to. So it changes day to day, that's the thing. It changes day to day, depending on what's going on in the district, what events are going on, if we have, we haven't had robbery sprees lately in the last several weeks or months, but when we would analyze that data and that of the surrounding districts, and we would kind of analyze where we think those sprees are gonna happen. And our data analysts would let us know, and we deploy to those boxes based on the need or the perceived need based on the data that is. I'm not a data person, but these analysts are so skillful at looking at every little aspect of these crimes that are occurring, and then they tell us where we think we should go.
So it's based on historical data.
What do you mean?
So you just said it's based on, you look at like a history of like maybe where crimes have occurred, and then you would say, okay, it looks like we've got maybe a hot spot here, or we know that something's going on, so we're going to deploy.
Yeah, it's
that what you
based
mean?
on whatever data is available at the time. So
I'd love to know more about the data,
Okay.
but you did say that's
yeah,
not your
that's-
métier,
mean,
which
that's
I
not
understand.
As the 14th
Is there
district
any-
commander, I'm not analyzing the data.
Is there
myself.
anywhere
How many
where
questions do you
citizens can find this data? My question wasn't fully answered, so which I understand
Yeah,
why,
I
I'm
mean,
just trying
so
to.
on our website, we do have a strategic initiatives division that puts all our data out
Okay.
there in dashboards. There's
Okay.
many dashboards that you as the public
Have
can
access to.
access, yes.
Okay, thank you.
I would play around with those because you could put in different variables and it'll give you.
You can also get citywide data to follow up on that. So you just get the 14th, 12th, or the citywide data, and that's what.
Yeah.
Okay, next we have Fiani.
So my question is about Nowaki. I don't know if people know the investigation into these officers with those keeper ties. Only the officers were interviewed, and the longest interview was 45 minutes, and then the BIA shut the investigation. So, Commander, can we get you to commit to firing Nowaki? Like, do you take issue with the fact that there are people on the force in this very district who have ties to the Oath Keepers?
I can't commit to firing an officer, that's not within my job description. That's a completely different bureau, which would be the Bureau of Internal Affairs and with COPA. So I could commit to bringing your concerns to the right people, yes, absolutely. And from my position, that's really all I can commit to.
Here in the back in the center. Please, what's your name, please?
David. So do you think, generally speaking, members of extremist organizations should be allowed on the police force?
Well, I can speak to what our policies and general orders state and allow. So, you know, if they're in conformance with our rules, regulations, and general orders, then, you know, I would say that yes, they could be on our police department. But that's all I can speak to as far as who can and can't be on our department. You know, we follow our rules, regulations, and department orders.
So this is from a Facebook post in November 14th, 2020. Mike Nowaki wrote, 2020 sucked for everyone, but in addition to that, on May 26th, my alcoholism and poor decision-making led to me being removed from the SWAT team. So Oath Keeper ties aside, does a Facebook post like that written by an officer under your command concern you?
Yes, anything like that is concerning, and again, things like that go through a specific procedure that's already established, and that would be through our Bureau of Internal Affairs.
So it's admittedly poor decision-making, you don't have any control over sort of what happens with that?
As far as his poor decision-making?
Well, I mean, he admitted
Yeah, I mean,
that he's making poor decisions, and so as his commander, I would think there would be sort of an extra level of scrutiny.
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen that post, but if that's something that, you know, you're bringing to my attention, I am going to let our Bureau of Internal Affairs know that that's been brought to my attention, because that's the next step that I would take. If somebody brings something to my attention that one of my officers is doing something that is concerning or illegal, or, that's what I can do. But I don't know if that's already been part of that investigation, if it's been.
I don't know why.
I don't know. I'm not familiar with that investigation. I had nothing to do with it. That was before my time here in the 14th district as well. So I apologize. I have no background to it. But I will bring your concern to BIA in the event that that was missed.
And just for documentation, what was your name now?
Raven,
Great. Thank you very much.
And what date was that?
November 14th, 2020.
All right, any other Q&A? Mr. Tischauer.
Thank you for joining us. I get a little heated when I talk about this. So I have law enforcement in my family. We know that Milwaukee is a outlier, right? We know that the vast majority of CPD officers want to do the best for the city of Chicago, right? So there's still like that decision by BIA to let this guy off. That breaks down trust between your work in the Office of Constitutional Policing and communities like ours, right? So can you explain why we should trust any person in your position when an officer like Milwaukee is allowed to patrol our streets?
Well, I mean, that's completely up to you whether you want to trust someone or not. However, I have nothing to do with that investigation. I am one member of a larger department. I have rules, regulations, general orders that I must follow, right? And then on top of that, I have my own personal style of leadership, of management, and everything else. So I would hope that you can trust me that I'm being honest with you, and I will do what I can within the rules and regulations of the Chicago Police Department. Now, I'm not here as the private citizen Melinda Linus. I'm here as the commander of the 14th district that was given this authority by the superintendent, and he trusts me enough to sit here and speak to all of you on his behalf, on the behalf of the city. Now, again, it's completely up to you whether or not to trust me as the commander, as one person. That's a big part of a bigger organization. And, in any big organization, any big company, obviously there's going to be outliers. There's going to be, decisions made that not everybody agrees with. And, we do our best to navigate that because each community is different as well, even within the 14th district. So I have to, keep that in mind and know, how can I get the best productivity and the best efficiency and effectiveness out of the group that I'm speaking with and want to engage with and want to go forward with. So again, I hope you trust that I'm being honest and open and 100% true to myself and also true to the department and the rules and regs that I've sworn to follow.
Hi. I just want to also speak to this on Sergeant Nowacki because I heard of some of these concerns. I've come to probably one of two of the district council meetings, but I'm hearing even more, which makes me further concerned by coming here. I came here to hear your responses, and I'm hearing from my fellow neighbors issues that are causing even more alarm. Like many districts in the city, we have a very diverse district, and that is obviously not only racial, but also sexual orientation, ability, religion. Every area of identity that someone from the Oath Keepers would have cause to treat unfairly and discriminate to the point that could be violence or death, which is really very concerning. And I understand within the confines of the police system that you're not able to share more information or that it has to go to BIA or COPA. So my question is, asking another question around what you are able to do within your role, is this something that you are talking about? If you are also concerned about it, are you bringing this to meetings with other commanders, with the superintendent, and so on, so that there are probably others, and if something were done, someone shouldn't just be transferred to a different district to continue to police.
So as to your question, am I discussing this or bringing this to other? Today is the first day I'm hearing the entire story of this being a concern to this group. So
Really?
I say that meaning
You haven't had other concerns brought to you by residents of the 14th
about
district
this
about this
particular
issue?
officer.
Yeah.
No, this all happened before I came to the 14th district, so maybe that's why. And then once an investigation is being handled, I'm not handling that. I don't see anything about it. You know, I'm not part of it. So, you know, even prior to me coming here, I knew there was something about an officer, but I had no name, nothing. So I didn't know what this was about. So again, yes, but like I had said, I'm gonna bring that Facebook post that you mentioned to my chain of command. But, and beyond that, yes, obviously this is a big topic of concern. So what I'm gonna do, because it's what I do professionally in my role, I am, yes, gonna forward this information down the line to see, okay, where do we go from here? What can we do to answer some of the questions that the community has? Because I can't answer them. You know, I don't know. Was not a part of it.
Clarify, it's not about the Facebook post, it's about the fact that he was removed from SWAT for alcohol.
Yeah, see, I don't know if that's
Whether he
true or
posted,
not.
where he posted it, I
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah, I don't know if it's
For the
true or not or
context.
anything, so I really can't speak to any of the truth of the matter asserted, so I don't know.
I think we've got time. One more question, that's gonna be this gentleman all the way in the back. Remind me your name, sir?
My name is Daniel Hahn. I've been a resident of 14th District for more than 10 years. I work with data professionally and often see how misunderstanding data points will affect policy decision making. Insufficient data is equally as problematic. Last year, the Office of the Inspector General released a report examining 911 response times by CPD. It alleged systemic failure of officers to mark themselves on scene when responding to calls. Quote, in more than half of the instances, the police are not reporting the time that they arrive on the scene of the emergency. And that means that we cannot adequately assess response times because CPD's data is incomplete. So given that, I'm wondering what data do you use to ensure you are allocating your officers where and when they will be most impactful?
What data are we using to allocate our officers, basically? Is that, okay. Yeah, you know, I'm not a data analyst, so I can't give you a good succinct answer on that. I could find an answer for you from our data personnel.
I suppose that if you speak to the process, it seems like maybe there aren't sufficient processes.
I mean, I can talk about the process from me as the district commander. Let's speak generally. You know, obviously, I manage all of the manpower within the district. So each watch is broken into a certain number of officers. We have beat cars, we have response cars, we have other cars that focus on other specific things. So, you know, first and foremost, we like to have our beat cars covered because they answer the calls. They're the ones spread out amongst the entire district. Now, beyond that, as far as like where we focus our tactical teams and things of that nature, you know, that's data taken from crime that's happening. And again, I'm not a data analyst, so I'm not going to give you the answer that you're searching for, and I'm not going to pretend and fumble through it any longer because I think it's wasting everybody's time. However, if you wanted to give me a nice question typed out, I will give it to a data analyst and get you something reasonably soon.
Sure, I appreciate
Fair
it.
enough.
This is gonna have to be the last one, I'm sorry, because I'm trying to make certain. Okay, we got 5 more minutes.
I mean, yeah.
If I could ask a follow-up to that question, would that be available for us to review as well?
Yeah, and this may be online as well on the CPD website, as far as you could pull up all the data portals, and it probably tells you exactly where the data is being pulled from. So, yeah, all that would be public. Yeah.
Because we collect that data as well, but it seems to me that the commanders have more rich data and newer data that we have access to the general public. So
I'm not sure about that. I mean, Yeah, I don't know. The data I'm given is from our, you know, CompStat unit and our strategic initiatives division, so, and then, yeah, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure if we have any more or not. I can look into that.
Sure.
We know that the consent decree was put in place because of bad behavior by CPD in the past, unconstitutional policing. So since that was your responsibility immediately before coming to the 14th district, could you give us more detailed understanding of what does the Office of Constitutional Policing Reform focus on? What are the challenges that you were facing, and why have we only achieved 5% of the consent decree so far?
Okay, so I've been out of the game for now almost a year, but the consent decree is a large document requiring many things for the department to do. Now, we're a very large department, so, I think one of the, and there's a whole process to get things done as well, which is slow moving. For example, to change one of our department policies, it takes quite a long time. A lot of people are saying, well, why can't you change that policy? It's not that we can sit around the table and say, okay, let's change it to X, Y, and Z, and here we go, we're done. You proofread it and let's get it done. It goes through many levels of review, including public review. Everybody has a chance to comment on any of our new policies, which is very important, I think. And I think a lot of community members don't realize how easy it is. You just go online and you type in what your comments are or your opinions, and all that gets looked at, and then then you look at the draft policy again and put into context all the community's responses and the interest groups. And now all that has to then be reviewed not only internally but externally through the independent monitoring team, which is that's the team that monitors us to make sure that we are following the consent decree and trying to get compliance with the consent decree. So there's a lot of hoops to jump through, and I think that is, it's hard for an agency this large. So I'm sorry I'm missing part of your question, but.
The priorities that you
So,
had.
I mean, the priorities so again, my focus was on Fourth Amendment and force review. So that was my own focus. Now, there's many different focuses that other people are focusing on as well within the Office of Constitutional Policing and Reform. So all I could really speak to is the force review and the Fourth Amendment. And we had a lot of issues, but a lot of it is negotiations and I was doing that for months. We were negotiating Fourth Amendment stops, and it's still going on, so.
Back to the data question. Are you saying that you assign officers to certain locations based on data, but you don't know where the data is coming from?
No. So we have a data analyst assigned to us, right? So they are taking data. This is not my question to answer. I don't want to fumble through this and waste everyone's time. So when you say where the data is coming from,
I guess another way of saying it is someone just handing you this data and you're making decisions based on what's handed to you from this person?
No, it's all being explained to us. We have briefings. Well, I hold briefings now twice a week within my district, and then we have area-wide briefings as well, and then we have a city-wide briefing on Wednesdays. So all of this data is being compiled by the statisticians and the data analysts, and then it's being explained in these meetings by various people. So like every Wednesday is our CompStat inspection meeting. So what that is they go through all the data from your district, the crimes, compared to last year, compared to the 7-day, the 28-day, and that's where you look to see if there's trends and issues, problems. Maybe we're missing something. So when you see it all out there and you start discussing it and then collaborating, that's when you kind of make your plans as to what you can do. So somebody's not handing me this big book saying, here you go, make your decision. We have briefings and we have these meetings to decipher what's best. And now I report to a deputy chief who's in charge of an area, so he has 4 districts. And he's very involved in looking at all of this, and we discuss it all, because just because something's happening in the 25th district doesn't mean it doesn't affect us. So it's important that we share our data and share strategies and policies, because that's how we actually get better.
Can I have to make this, insist that this is
Sure,
the
yeah,
last
I
one?
just want to add to that, this may help for those of you who have questions about how data is used for resource allocation. My name's Claire, I live in the 47th Ward, Matt Martin is my alderman. He wrote the ordinance for the workforce allocation study. And there was a data analysis group called Matrix Consulting who was hired by CPD to conduct the study. It's gonna take about a year. But CPD is required to provide quarterly updates on the allocation study and how the resources are being deployed. So I suggest if anyone has questions about resources and how they're being allocated, contact Matt Martin's office because he wrote the ordinance to get that allocation study passed. And so we need to hold him accountable too for keeping us updated. So he might be a good resource, as well as my 19th district council, they worked with him to get that ordinance passed. So those are some people who might be able to answer those questions.
Thank you.
And I'd be happy if there's another meeting, I could bring an analyst or somebody that can speak and give you a better.
Give me the turn. Give me the turn. All right, quick question. Yes.
So, we had to fight to get to this meeting. Can you commit to meeting with these district councils upon request, so long as we give you adequate notice? Because I think this sort of dialogue is really important for transparency and accountability. Can you commit to that?
I will commit to, yes, the communication is opening up between the counselors and myself, yes. I'll commit to that and commit to future meetings, yes. Yes, because this is very helpful, and I appreciate this, and I appreciate you listening to me and listening to me fumble through some of these questions about data, and I apologize. If I knew that there'd be data-heavy questions, I would have definitely brought a subject matter expert. That's not my expertise, but.
Thank you, Commander. Okay, with that being said, with respect to the commander's busy schedule, we're gonna go ahead and let her go and get out of here. But before we do that, I'd like everybody to please give a round of applause. And we're not quite there again. I understand some people have places to go. You got your hands on one of these brochures. We got a friendly reminder on there. July 6th is our regular monthly meeting, and we will have a presentation, employee speak. And that will be taking place at 1 o'clock on Saturday, July 6th, 30:30 West 4th. Thank you.